Hi there, this is Christian from Coolopolis. I'm the author of this recent book, which I'm very proud of. If you're a fan of urban history or Montreal history or just crazy stories, I highly recommend you pick it up. Montreal 375 Tales. I'm here today to talk about my favorite, perhaps my favorite thing on the internet, almost more or less. I keep coming back to the site after it. A young man, I believe, who calls himself Cat Bus, according to this. He did an amazing thing. He took photos from the Montreal archives and he stitched them together, and he made a view of Montreal, aerial view of Montreal in 1947. His name is Anton, by the way. I've chatted with him admiringly briefly. I told him I really love his site. So what he does is at the top corner, you can click satellite, and what do you see? You see what the recent Google satellite looks like of today, and the very same spot in 1947. And if you want a map, you got that too. So this is really insane what he's done, and it's a real revelation to me because I swear it's got everything you want to know. You could see how much of the island was covered in railway tracks, and what it looks like now is quite different. This is one example down here. Okay, still got some tracks below the cliff. Now I want to bring your attention to see if you want to locate yourself. You can. I'm down in Point St. Charles. It's not where I wanted to show you. I want to show you Westmount High School, which is unfortunately he only goes to a certain point on his westerly wise. We should really start a crowdfunder, to fund the rest of this map. Here's Westmount High School in 1947. Now, doesn't that look strange? Does that look like a high school to you? Of course, because it was not a high school. It was some sort of military thing. They had all sorts of, what is that, barracks in the back where the tennis courts are now. So let's see what it looks like now. That's what it looks like. You might be familiar with Westmount High. It was technically called the Westmount Athletic Grounds. After 1947, it was the athletic grounds was at the entrance here. And before that, you see, Westmount High was at what's Selwyn House School near Westmount City Hall until they moved into this building in the early 1960s. So as you could see, it was quite a hellish landscape. There you could see what it looked like then. And another interesting is this little street next to Westmount High is called Hallowell. Hallowell went all the way up here, you see? Now what it looks like now is quite radically different. Hallowell ends all the way down here. It does not meet over here at St. Catherine. So what you had before was a series of houses. You know, to get Westmount High, they had to demolish all of these houses up here, and these houses over here were also sacrificed for that road detour. So there was considerable demolitions involved in you might be familiar with that road detour near Westmount High. So another quite fascinating thing about this map is right across the street from Westmount High. What did you have there? You had empty fields. Empty fields. So I guess this was an advantage because I don't know how they managed to keep these fields empty or what was there or why they were empty at that point. But what they managed to do was put fairly modern buildings here, and the advantage of those is, of course, they bring a lot of tax revenue to the city of Westmount. So, of course, this is Westmount Square / Alexis Neon Plaza. You'll notice that that is a real cash cow for Westmount. They bring in a lot of money through that. But what was it in 1947? It was just a bunch of houses. Now, of course, what we also have here, this is what became the main Alexis Neon building. It was a baseball field for decades in the sort of 1890s. My father was friends with Alexis Neon, who was a Belgian who went on to move to the Caribbean with his sons. And my father told me that Alexis Neon, the man, He made the deal to sell that property on the condition that it always bear his name. So that was one sort of strange thing about this empty property. That, of course, is the old Montreal Forum. They did a massive job rebuilding it in those girders on the roof to expand it somewhere along the line. You see even the Google Maps hasn't adjusted to the fact that the hospital is gone. You can see the hospital was, or it's in the process as I'm taping this, of being demolished. Probably when you're watching it, it shall already have been demolished. So we come down all the way. The other thing about Dorchester is, of course, in Westmount there were a lot of rooming houses. I have some amazing stories in my book about Dorchester near, Dorchester near Atwater. There was a couple of dramatic, high-profile murder-suicides or suicide attempts that you really got to check out my site and check out my book to know more about it. One of them involved the premier of Quebec, or the future premier of Quebec, Daniel Johnson. A crazy story. So now we're going towards downtown, and naturally, as you could expect, it was nowhere like it is now. I came of age at what is this spot here. This is Mackay Street, and that's Dorchester, or René-Lévesque as they call it. This has already been built up since Google did this thing. But when I lived there in the early 80s, pretty much from 81 to 87, there was a little tiny street here between Overdale and Dorchester called Kinkora. And there it is in its full glory on the map, right in the middle there. So I missed that street. It was demolished in about, in the late 80s. So you got another thing there's a lot of mysterious things here. Like this, I can't for the life of me figure what that might be. You see this strange, what is it? It's a fence. It's a bunch of, it's some sort of structure. And where is that exactly? Well, let's see. That would be on Mountain Street. So Mountain at this point was very much the home of the black population. There were nightclubs down here. This is what I guess Saint Antoine. Am I right here? Hold on. Yes, that would be Saint Antoine, right where the Bell Center is now. So if you look there, this would have been a lot of your Cafe Saint Michel and Rockhead's Paradise. A lot of interesting stuff going down there. Very vibrant black community, black population of Montreal. The demographic was very strong in that area. So I'm going to come back to another thing, Guy Street, which is never fails to entertain me. We got Guy, and let's go up towards Dorch. Where this is now, you got your a big roller skating rink which caught fire. I'm not sure which one it is. I guess it would be this one. Is it the Palladium or? So this on the corner of Dorch, you had your you don't have that round building which is the abandoned hotel. That is not yet in place. I'm not sure what that building is there. And what I guess the Yellow Pages building at the corner, the southwest corner of Dorch and Guy was just a big empty lot. Now, I believe all of these buildings were demolished because Dorchester, the south side of Dorchester, was demolished in the 1950s, and this was where Desjardins the restaurant was, and they moved over here in a new building that they built. So another thing that would be interesting to look at. By the way, if you want to look for the site, just look Google 1947 aerial Montreal. So another huge thing, of course, would be the Place des Arts. Place des Arts was an interesting block, which here it is now, of course. It's Place des Arts, everybody knows that. As it was back then, this building, I believe, they were trying to keep it within the project. It's quite a lovely building, but then there was a fire which killed a couple of one or two, I think, firemen, and they knocked the building down after that. There was a little street called Plateau Street, There was some lovely stuff on this block. This is always entrancing to me. I don't know what that is. I've tried to figure that out, but it's some sort of landscaped, I guess, monument. Maybe there was a statue there. So that's a bit of a mystery. This reveals some interesting stuff when you look at this. When you look at this map, of course, there were parking lots back then. Quite a lot of them. If you look around, the parking lots are quickly disappearing in Montreal. Another thing I believe would be worth a look would be, let's go down the hill, and you've got a lot of train infrastructure down here. Okay, so boy, it's easy to get lost. There's massive parking opportunities for those who miss the good old days. We could just drive where you want to go and pay a couple of bucks to leave your jalopy there. So I'm getting lost here a bit. Let's go back to the satellite. I wanted to find now I'm really lost. Boy. I wanted to find the train station down on Peel Street, and that boy, now I'm getting overwhelmed with my information here. So as you could see here, let's just go back to McGill College. Boom. I'm old enough to remember this large parking lot. It was behind behind Eden's, and that was a very handy thing. And some people claim that the demise of downtown is, of course, due to the disappearance of parking. The one really stunning difference, of course, between Montreal of old and new is the train station. Now, if I could find where it is, this way, come over to the train station. I don't want to miss my train. This, of course, Place Ville Marie, one of the possibly the most recognizable Montreal building. What it was back then, it was a strange kind of pit for about 4 decades. They had a huge pit right where the Central Station is here. You can't really tell, but this is a bridge that's going over the train tunnel to all the way to TMR, which was built in about 10 or so. And so you can imagine that this was a very strange kind of part of town. In the 1950s, they finally, after all those decades, got it built up with Queen Elizabeth Hotel here, Place Ville Marie. This was the original ICAO building. So that is now a central component of the core of Montreal, but it was really nothing back then. And Place Bonaventure, what was it back then? Well, you see the train tracks, but there was not much of anything. Okay, so I think I'll leave you with that. It's already been several minutes. I really encourage you to have a look at this site. And do not miss your opportunity to buy this book. It's on Amazon. There I am, my name at the bottom, Christian, and you will love it. Okay, thanks for watching.